right, going live in three, two, one, and YouTube says I'm live. Hello, my friends. We are here with you in 2020 with another episode of Talk Power BI, and this one is going to be super special. We got a super special topic, and we got some super special people to talk about this with us. And the topic is future of Power BI. And one of the posts we put out is that, well, we don't have a crystal ball, nobody does. But hey, that's not going to stop us from, speculating. So, but we have a lot of knowledge in this virtual room today. We have a lot of pretty cool guests. So I'm looking forward to see what we come up with together. I'm looking forward to kind of learn from them, from their perspective. So if you're joining us live, do pop in the chat box and let us know where you are watching us from. Our guests today are certainly, they kind of from all over the globe, all different industries. So that's going to make it super exciting. So do let us know. Make sure, let us know that the audio is working great. Let us know where you're calling in from. And we're going to start there. I'm going to say a few hellos. Hello to Juan and Nilesh. Tristan is also in the chat box. Tristan is also on a guest. Jennifer is here, and so forth. All right, so I need a confirmation. I know there's a little bit of a lag, but I want a confirmation from one of you guys on YouTube to make sure the audio is working on YouTube. And I'll also try to check on my phone and see if I can confirm using that. All right, so it looks like you guys can hear us. Lots more hellos coming in. Jennifer, Andy, Andrew. Jennifer is from Illinois. Perfect. We have some guests from Netherlands as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guests, and we'll start there. And this one, I wrote it out just so I don't mess it up. So before introduction, just kind of an overview. By the way, this is an annual series now. We had done this last year, so go check out, see if we got our predictions right. And we're going to talk about what's going on with Power BI. And is it an evolution? Is it a revolution? I certainly have my thoughts. Is there something that could go wrong? So we're going to not shy away from that stuff. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly. What are the forces in favor? And finally, now all of these folks are going to speak their ground truth. So you're going to get that ground reality. I mean, this is not going to be kind of the pie in the sky. These are not folks, again, sometimes you go to the Microsoft presentation and of course they sell you Power BI, but we're just folks kind of working in the BI industry. So you're going to get that ground truth, and hopefully you're going to make that connection from there and say, okay, what does it mean for me now? So that's our goal. Let's welcome our guests, and this is in alphabetical order. It's the best I can come up with. So we have Charles Elwood from Michigan, USA. He's the founder of Solismatica, providing Power BI consulting services focused on the marketing side of your business. He's also a member of our Pro Plus program. And we have Greg Berg out of British Columbia, Canada. He's the founder of Big Wave BI, love that name, providing Power BI consulting services focused on project management in ERP systems and beyond. He's also a member of our Pro Plus program. Many of the Pro Plus members you've seen in the group before, so they should be familiar faces to you. We're going to have Kenneth Tyler out of California, USA. He's a founder, and as far as I know, the only personal Power BI trainer in the world. So he's at personalpowerbaitrainer.com. Kenneth is very active in the Power BI user forums. He's also a member of our Pro Plus group. Then we have Mark. Mark, how do you say your last name? Oh, wait, you're on mute.
It's actually Lelyveld, but
Lelyweld.
you write it a little different.
All right. So Mark Lelyweld, out of Netherlands, he's a Microsoft MVP. You can find him on datamark.com, where he blogs profusely. And he mixes his passion there for Power BI, beer, and also road bike and mountain biking. We have Parv Chana out of British Columbia, Canada, another Microsoft MVP. Parv is a BI architect, Power BI consultant, trainer, and has over 15 years of experience in the industry. Next up, we have Reed Havens out of Seattle, Washington. Of course, I've known Reed for a long time, close friend. And of course, you have seen met him on my channel as well. He's also a Microsoft MVP. He's the founder of Havens Consulting, And somehow, amongst everything he does, he also finds time, believe it or not, to teach at University of Washington and other universities. We also gonna have Thomas Powers out of Seattle, Washington. He's a Power BI expert focusing on the healthcare sector, where he has many years of experience. He's also a member of our Pro Plus program. And of course, Tristan Malherbe out of France. He's a Microsoft MVP and founder of Data Pulse, and he also co-founded the Power BI user group in France. So all the Microsoft MVPs that I mentioned, Mark Lelyveld, Parchana, Reed Havens, Tristan Malherbe, all of them are also pretty active in the user groups and in local and international Power BI conferences. You can find them there. Oh, I forgot to hit my key here. And on the video you're watching, if you go in the description, we have links to help you connect with all of these people. If you need some more guidance, hey, heck, if you want to hire them to guide your company through this beautiful feature of Power BI, then yeah, so you're going to find links to each one of them in the description. Cool. So I'm going to do a little bit of setup, kind of kind of where we think we are. So this this was supposed to be an animation. What happened here? Let's see, 2019. Okay, something broke down here, but hey, I'm sure you've by now, if you've been around this, you've seen the Gartner report. It definitely features Microsoft as a leader, and Power BI is just one component, but it's definitely been the key component. And if you see, if my animation had worked, you would have seen that the rise of Microsoft in this Gartner's BI Magic Quadrant is closely correlated with when Power BI kind of went general availability and was launched. So that's that, and of course, it's always a good sign when Microsoft leaders, it's being adopted internally, and it is heavily being used internally. And of course, we hear about this in news kind of all the time. One of my favorite quotes, which was actually in a kind of casual meeting, but puts it perfectly, which was, Power BI is and will be the center of gravity for Microsoft BI for a long time. Now, that was said, and of course, we can debate in this call, say is that true or not? And of course, one of my favorite kind of proof of Power BI comes from Microsoft's competitor, Google. And you can look up any term Google Trends, and you can see kind of the rise of Power BI there. So I'm going to turn off screen sharing. Let's focus on our guests today. Okay, cool. So let's go there. And I'm going to just do a quick check in the chat box. All right, we're seeing a lot of hellos. Awesome. Good friends. All right, so to kickstart the discussion on Power BI, I give you a little bit of the numbers, a little bit of the screenshots, but what I would like to know from or hear from some of our guests is that one of my favorite quotes is, if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going. So before we start talking about 2020, I would just like to get a pulse from a few of you of how's it been in 2019? How did it feel like Power BI was doing in kind of your neck of the woods, in your country or your industry that you focus on? Of course, now the country you're in doesn't really matter. You could possibly be working with worldwide clients. And the way we're going to do it, since we have kind of a few speakers, is that just kind of speak up, and we'll have a few speakers speak on each topic, and we'll try to kind of rotate that and get all the voices heard. So whoever wants to go first, we would love to hear kind of from you, from some of you, on just kind of your perspective on how you felt Power BI did in 2019.
I can speak on that one. Just from my perspective, 2019 been a great year. Actually, the two things which I found very interesting in last year was people moving away from the other BI tools. The big segment I saw, they are using other, Tableau, ClickView, whatever other tools they were using. I found people being into that space, using BI for last 3 to 5 years, welcome product on that. And eventually, somewhere in the journey of either exploring Power BI, what value it brings, or some actually moved on that. And I've been involved in those kind of projects, which were very interesting to see the thought process, what they have. And the biggest driving factor for that was the ecosystem, the landscape which Power BI provides. It gives them a really end-to-end solution, whether they want to embed in their portals as an ISVs, uh,
Mm-hmm.
want to do, sharing products or the connectors, online data flow has changed quite a bit. So it's been pretty interesting, people moving from other platforms to Power BI. And second biggest thing I found is I'm not myself as a programmer or a developer or any in any sense. Has turned out to be very, very big thing. I have like three startup companies which are actually two are California based, and one is in Richmond, Virginia, USA, and one is Washington, DC. And a lot of those companies are actually developing product using Microsoft Power BI Embed. And as in a white label, you go into those websites and portals, you don't even know they are running Power BI under the hood, which is very,
Wow.
very I'm not in a a programmer, but helping those guys to use the best practices, bring the knowledge, how they be implementing all those solutions. And it's turned out to be really, really good. Those were two big takeaways for me from last year, along with a Power BI implementation in the corporations and whatnot.
Terrific. Let's hear from one of our other guests on what their feel was of how Power BI did in their neck of woods in 2019.
I can
Okay.
follow up. Yeah, Charles, go first.
Oh, okay. All right. Just three quick points from my point of view. I started my business, Solismatica, and I really just launched it about 3 months ago, 3.5 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And just interestingly, about 2 months in, or maybe a month and a half, I had to find other freelancers to help me with capacity. So that gives you an indication. I just launched, and a month and a half in, I'm looking for help because the demand was so high, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect that at all last year. So 2019 was, as a startup, I was like, oh, where is this going to go? And month in, I was already looking for help. I also kind of watched, who asked me about Power BI. And an interesting thing happened about a week and a half ago. I was invited down to Purdue University, and I sat with the dean of the business school there, and they have a business analytics machine learning center. And Dean Hummels and I spent an hour and a half talking about, business analytics, and he was really interested in Power BI and the growth of Power BI. So that's an indication to me too that universities are looking at it, especially the big ones, the data-driven ones like Purdue. So that to me was a big indicator that Power BI was gaining a lot of traction there. And then I think you're going to go into this later, but kind of the Google purchase, of Looker, and then there's the Salesforce Tableau.
Yeah.
Just for me, I think there's been 2 instances of clients coming to me, giving me CSV file data dumps from Salesforce, and it's like, Charles, can you analyze this? So they're taking stuff out of Salesforce and giving it to, they want me to connect it with Power BI. And just last week, Tableau, they're switching out of Tableau, going to Power BI, and they're converting their whole system. So I'm seeing that trend. There's a large shift from the other ones into Power BI. So those are the 3 points I had.
Terrific. Yeah, and I'll say that. Yeah, I mean, I hear those stories all the time as well, where companies are shifting en masse kind of to Power BI. I mean, really large companies, and often it's either timed with that. Oh, everybody bought an Office license, and we got E5, and that includes Power BI. Might as well. And or either it's related with Dynamics. Both are kind of strong forces. So let's hear from one other person. I think somebody was trying to go of how their year went with 2019 with Power BI.
I can follow up on that. What I really liked actually is the more AI capabilities which become available, such as the composition tree and also the Q&A and the key influencer visual. I think they really brought AI closer to the business and let the business play with the AI features without even writing a line of code. And that's, I think, a really strong power where they have a big advantage against their competitors. And I also see at some big clients where I'm working that they already start implementing these kind of solutions in their day-to-day business.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a strong force with Power BI. Frankly, I love that moment. I know, I mean, The closest I've gotten to coding was VBA in Excel. And yeah, I was always kind of scared of that. And there were some edges of BI. I still get asked by people, like, oh, do I need to learn R and all this stuff? And I'm like, I shrug my shoulders and like, I haven't, not that it's a bad thing. It's good to learn R, but in this world, you don't necessarily have to. And they put a lot of power kind of in the hands of the business user, which I was, which I think is a powerful trend. So great. So that was awesome, folks. That gives you kind of a heartbeat. So I think, overall, you get a sense that, yeah, things are going great. What would you say? I want to hear from some of you again. What are the forces that are working in favor of Power BI? So what is it that is actually kind of fueling this thing? And so of course, folks, just kind of try to rotate on your own. I'll try to call some of you out if needed. But so yeah, if you haven't spoken, kind of try to. I would love to hear from some of the folks whom you haven't heard. So I just want to hear your take on what are the forces that are fueling kind of this wave of Power BI.
So I can go ahead on this one. I think Power BI has many strengths. The first one is probably the price. It's pretty cheap compared to other BI tools on the market today. I would say the second point is probably the interaction with Office 365 and especially Excel. Mm-hmm. I still have many clients who want to keep this level of interaction between their Excel environment and Power BI, and I think Power BI offers that kind of things very natively and very easily. And the third thing, which is not quite understood by the market at the moment, but I'd expect that it's going to be the case in 2020, it is the fact that Power BI is not just about data visualization, mm-hmm. and it is definitely becoming a genuine BI tool, enabling enterprise BI. And actually, analysis services world and Power BI world are now merging into, I would say, one unified platform. And I'm pretty sure that this is going to be one of the biggest strengths of Power BI in the future, is to be able to answer very quick and small business questions, and at the same time being able to build custom and scalable solutions for power users and data analysts and data scientists.
Brilliant. Love that, mate. Yeah, I mean, I do feel like Power BI is kind of a bridge. I mean, there was the old world of BI where either there were these really complicated systems which experts manage in IT or somewhere, and then there was just business users like me hacking things around in Excel, right? But, Power BI, you kind of get the best of both worlds. So let's hear from somebody else on this.
I'll
What
chime
you
in
think
too.
are the forces. Yeah, Reed, go for it.
Yeah, so just piggybacking off of what Tristan said, and also it also pairs to the last question, just like what's been new. So I think one of the biggest things that's come out last year and also is pushing adoption of this is the opening of the XMLA endpoint, or at least for now in Premium. Like that has shifted again Power BI from like a visualization tool, so it's a data modeling platform now. Like you can use Power BI and Premium and just host a bunch of models, which honestly, like in terms of ease of use and then handing that off to clients, where you build a model in Power BI desktop, you use data flows, you publish it, you have the scheduled refresh. That is substantially easier than having to develop in Visual Studio.
For our viewers, that's a great point. But for our viewers, can you just explain just really quickly what that means? XMLA endpoint opening, what does that mean? What does that allow users to do?
Absolutely, yeah. So historically, like if you publish, just to give it a context from Power BI, if you publish a report into Power BI, you essentially have the ability to connect to it within the Power BI universe. You can maybe connect to it with some Analyze and Excel stuff, but there was no way to say connect a Tableau report or Spotfire or ClickView or a .NET framework. You couldn't connect any external authoring or reporting tools to that. And like that's why a lot of people did development. They'd build a tabular model in SSAS, they'd publish it to Azure Analysis Services or an on-prem SSAS server, and then you basically just have a model. You could connect anything to it. And Microsoft last year opened up this endpoint, which essentially gives you a connectable tabular URL that you can plug and play into any report tool and use that. So I've actually, for any client that I have with Premium now, it's and that have been using SSAS, like I've been encouraging them just to switch over to it, because I will speak from my personal experience, and I'm sure a lot of people on this call will agree, developing in Visual Studio is extremely painful. It's glitchy, it crashes. Power Query isn't quite as robust in there versus what's available in Power BI. So it's just never been as a nice of a development experience. And trying to hand that off to somebody else to manage has always been more complex because it requires a lot more knowledge of like advanced settings and coding, and which can be great for 8 billion row tables. But if you have a small data model, it's so much easier just to do a PBX file and publish it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So folks, yeah, that's a subtle point, but man, that's where kind of these and I'm kind of feeling it already that like all of our brains are sort of better than mine. But so what Reed talked about, the XML endpoint, sounds so geeky, but I really think he's onto something there because it could change everything. So often when I'm talking to companies and we're having this discussion about Power BI or not, there could be some avid a Power BI advocate in there. Let's say that, I don't know, their CMO or something. I was like, no, oh, sorry, I messed that up. So there could be somebody who's like really into Tableau. It's like, oh no, we have these Tableau users and so forth. And now what's going to happen is that you disconnect those two decisions, right? So you can have Tableau, Click, Spot, Fire, whatever, all of that. You can have different visualizations. So the choice of what is your data modeling platform becomes kind of separate from the visualization tool. And I think we step into what I call the BYOV world, kind of. We've had bring your own beer, right? We've had bring your own device, right? I mean, that was a big change in companies. Earlier, they used to hand out Blackberries to everybody. Now you can just bring in any device. You can walk into Microsoft with an iPhone device, be hired there, and know that it's going to work. And the same thing is going to happen with visualization tools. It's going to be BYOV. The model, the platform is going to be Power BI in a lot of cases, but you can say, hey, you can use any visualization tool you want. So that's a good kind of trend. If anybody else had maybe another quick observation about this, on what are the forces working in favor of Power BI, maybe something else that you see, or you just want to echo some of the ones that Tristan and Reed mentioned. Charles, go for it.
Yeah, just real quick point. I still see people, that don't understand how quickly you can visualize, tell that story, see the insights with Power BI. And, over the last 2 weeks, I probably had 3 or 4 clients like, you did that fast and you gave me these insights that are adding this much value. People are still being surprised by that. I thought, Power BI has been out, 5 years or something, but there's still people today, that I've observed over the last couple of weeks that are just, surprised by how powerful, how quick, how fast we can get the insights. So that was just, I think, a force that's still there, that's still yet to be mined and realized.
Terrific. Love that.
However, I would just add a comment about this. I agree with you, Charles, but at the same time, it can be a risk to think that Power BI is easy.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes business users and clients tend to underestimate the complexity of, I don't know, a calculation or a data model. So I would say the easiness of Power BI is a double-edged sword, because it's definitely attractive, but at the same time, it can make it very complex for the business users to understand why sometimes it's not as easy as they expected.
Terrific.
No, I've experienced that too. That's true.
Yeah, that's a great segue. And of course, Tristan, don't even get me started on people who are not using Power BI the right way. Like, you walk in, it's like, oh, this is so messed up, and you look at some of the stuff they're doing, like, oh, what are you doing here? That's not Power BI. They're trying to use it like Excel or SQL or something. So, well, let's switch to that. So I'm going to switch the order of the questions I have, because this is a great segue. So let's go there. So what are the challenges around adoption of Power BI? And of course, it's like one of those things. I mean, if they have trouble adopting it, if they have trouble using it, then it's going to lose steam. Doesn't matter how much momentum we have there. So, of course, we heard kind of from Tristan a little bit hinting about complexity. But let's hear from some other folks. And let's see. So, Kenneth, I haven't seen you on the webcam. If you're on, or Greg, we haven't heard from you. So yeah, we're going to try to get all the voices in. Maybe one of you talk to us about some of the challenges you see around adoption, Power BI adoption.
Sure, I wouldn't mind jumping in there. one of the projects we've seen recently is just challenges in terms of just the pricing model with Power BI embedded, figuring that out, and just premium. So I that ties in with one of my predictions. I'm predicting that'll change over the next year. I'm hoping maybe.
Yeah, you're like, it has to.
Hope so.
Yeah.
Terrific. Terrific. Yeah, with licensing, I have to say I can't make up my mind if it's like simple or it's really complicated. So, sometimes when people come to me and talk about pricing, hey, I mean, I don't want to spook them, right? So I say, no, it's easy. I mean, it's a free trial, and then it's $10 per user per month, and I stop there. But then I heard somebody else saying, and man, you need a PhD to figure out the pricing. And I'm like, holy cow, that's partly true. So I just want to get a pulse, man. What do you guys think about just licensing? Is it simple? $10 per user per month?
It's easy.
It's easy.
It's easy until you start talking about premium.
Yeah.
Okay. What do some of the other folks feel? Is it easy? Is it not?
Yeah, I think the we are working on a project with one of the company using Power BI Pro, and we were implemented data flow in there, and it was a very complex transformation and take way too longer to do it. Mm-hmm. So I recommended to go to Power BI Premium just at the time when you're running data flow, and all of a sudden from $10 Pro license to minimum 3,000 or 4,000 per month just to process the data. And I was like, there was a business need is a different story, but like a jump is so big, it's like so hard to justify some point in time. Like really from $10 to $4,000 or $5,000 all of a sudden. So that's a bit challenging, I guess, some point in time, because you have the features which you can only use, which are available in premium, and you want to use, but the price gap is so big, it's very, very hard to justify.
Yeah, that's great. So around licensing, I want to ask you guys what you kind of felt working with your clients as well. This is what I call the uncanny valley. Now, the term comes from robotics, I think, and the idea there is we have robots around us, AI, a lot of that stuff, and if you're making a robot, and if you make it look like a robot, humans are cool with it, right? And if somehow we're able to make robots which are exactly like us, I mean, obviously they're going to be okay. I mean, there's going to be some debate like, is that human now, or so forth. But what is called as an uncanny valley, as you make them closer and closer to humans, but not quite human-like, that spooks the hell out of us, right? So there's a dip, right? I mean, if they're robot-like, then we're good. But as you get closer and closer, there's like a dip. So this weird valley, and on the other side, that's good. So, sorry, a little bit nerdy analogy, but what I'm talking about, this uncanny valley where Power BI, if you have very few users, I don't know, 10 users, 50 users, you're good, right? If you have to the level where Power BI Premium is a slam dunk choice, if you have 10,000 users or something like that, then you go with Power BI Premium and you're happy. But there's this uncanny valley in the middle where it doesn't seem to make sense, where I've had weird, I mean, kind of this, few hundred users where it's kind of feels too expensive for them to pay $10 per user per month. And of course, they're not big enough for premium. Have you guys experienced that? Have you guys had that discussion with your clients? Gosh, what have you told them?
Yes. We've had that kind of discussions with the clients and also with Microsoft. I think Microsoft is aware of the fact that the PCQ are starting a bit high for some customers. But I would add the fact that there are lower entry points on premium if you are buying A or EM SKUs, which can benefit to smaller enterprises who do not necessarily want to deploy their Power BI reports in the cloud portal of Power BI. It's a bit cheaper compared to the P SKU. However, having said that, I would say that we would need probably a lower entry level point for, I don't know, P0 or P0.5, allowing SMEs buying Power BI Premium. Because today, at least in France, what I see is that the clients who have Premium are only very big companies.
Yeah.
And there is another challenge that we will probably talk about later is the fact that they are probably buying Power BI Premium for the wrong reasons because they are just buying it to save the money for licenses, whereas Power BI offers so much more. But
Hmm.
that's another topic we will talk about later probably. But yeah, that's my thought on the licensing side.
Cool. All right. Any kind of last thoughts on licensing that somebody would want to share?
Just real quick, so I delved into ASQ and EMSQ,
Yeah.
Tristan, for a little bit, and the pricing for that, estimating, clients always want, it's like, okay, give me an estimate,
Yeah.
but those are truly capacity based, and just trying to guess at the load and what hours and what the maximum load is on the system was really really difficult and confused the client quite a
Yeah.
bit. So I don't know
Yeah.
if any others had experience with that, but I really struggled with estimating for ASQ.
Yeah.
Yes.
So folks, I mean, you saw. I'm not sure which one of us said it, but I think it was Mark who said, "Yeah, it's licensing is easy until you start talking about premium." But again, right? So it's $10 per user per month, but you quickly saw the discussion with premium. Frankly, I was having trouble to hold on to like, oh, what A SKU, which SKU. So it is there. We're gonna kind of acknowledge that and move on. And I want to bring up some of the other stuff here. One is that I talk to prospective clients, and they say, and these are not really large companies. So Microsoft, it feels it's so focused, it's very focused, and they do a great job with the GEs of the world, right? I mean, you're a really large company, you're going to have all the support and resources from Microsoft to help you out. But if you're not that, right, and you're a big enough company, it could be even a kind of a multi-million-dollar company, hundreds of $1 million. But they said, Avi, I talked to Domo, and I had like a sales rep working with me, and maybe even a technical person and so forth. I talked to Tableau, and yeah, I found a human, and they were kind of guiding me through. And Microsoft Power BI, I can't get a hold of anybody. Do you see that as a problem? I mean, have you heard that from the clients? It seems the model that these companies are using, and we can step into a little bit of the kind of the competition as well. So there's Tableau, there's Domo, there's Click. Um, is that specific thing come up, or do you see other, maybe disadvantages? And Power BI clearly a very capable tool, but competing with these other tools, do you see kind of a disadvantage that Power BI has on this?
If I may elaborate a bit on what you're saying, yes, I heard a lot of smaller clients telling that Microsoft is not really accessible for them.
Mm-hmm.
However, they most of the times forget how big the community is and how active the community is.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes I just say, "Did you already Google your question?" And within seconds, they find their answer to the question.
Yeah.
So if they just be a little bit more active on the community, the Power BI forum, a lot of times they can already find their answers there and don't necessarily need Microsoft for that.
Yeah.
Although Microsoft is active on the forum itself as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. So, of course, Microsoft has kind of always operated that way. I mean, that's just kind of in their DNA, right? I mean, they work with these other parties. They have a very large Microsoft partner network. And, of course, so you're talking about the community. So, of course, we have many of the Microsoft MVPs. By the way, many of us here, I'm sure, we also run our companies and we're Microsoft partner companies as well. So we're kind of in both ecosystems. So yeah. So if you're in that spot, I'll just say that, folks, there is a help. Maybe if not directly from Microsoft, then of course you have all of our contact information in the description below. So reach out to one of us or kind of find a Microsoft partner, and so forth. So there is kind of help there. So the last thing on this topic, like with the challenges around Power BI, what I want to talk about is what Tristan hinted on, which is that so Power BI I feel is much easier. It makes things much easier than they ever were. I was a business user. I was dependent on IT for a lot of stuff. So either it was go to IT, submit my request, wait for 6 months, and maybe I would have it, or just hack the heck out of it in Excel and SQL queries and the mix of that. And that was kind of a nightmare too, right? So those are the two choices. And Power BI allowed me as a business user to kind of bridge that and build something which is awesome. I don't have to kind of babysit it. I don't have to spend a week to refresh a monthly report. I can, click one-click refresh, automatic refresh, share easily, all that stuff. So that's awesome. So it is easier. I'll say it has made it life simpler, but it's not always easy. And that's what Tristan was talking about, where people run into kind of challenges. And so, of course, there's a general challenge around the kind of the ecosystem and the platform and all of that. But of course, there is the specific thing. Let's call it out, guys. A lot of us, a lot of folks who are starting out, they run into the DAX wall, and they go, "Whoa, what the what?" Right? In fact, I was speaking to another Microsoft MVP who said, and this is an exact quote, he said, "How can they get away with this?" And well, I had some answer for him, but I want to hear from you guys that what do you think about this complexity? I mean, it is easier than the old world. I definitely feel that, but it's still not easy. Is that going to be a challenge? Is there a possibility of other players coming in who maybe don't offer the whole suite, but start nibbling away at the Power BI market just because they are brain dead simple?
Yeah, just gonna speak about that. Is of course DAX is super easy and
Yep, love it. Yeah, both are true.
yeah. So I mean, people talk. When you talk about DAX, people say what it is. I'm like, you go in Excel, you say sum, average. It's a formula. It's pretty much the same thing. You learn in simple sum in Excel, then you have a sum if and ifs come in Excel. A little bit more advanced, you do that. And similar with the DAX, you start with the smaller things and then go to the next level. But I think it goes very well hand to hand with the data modeling. That's the thing I like to guide them. Like you can be very good in a DAX expert or maybe learn the formula language itself, what the syntax is in that respect. If your data model is not great, does not matter. Your syntax, you know what the DAX is, but it's not going to work. So the two, because these two things goes hand by hand, and that's the one thing where I found people does not understand the value of the data model, that how it is going to help them to make their easy and simple to work with, and the performance, right? I was working on a Power BI community question one. There was a post there. Somebody said, I have 40,000 records, rows data, but when I refresh, it takes 4 hours. Like he cannot share anything. I'm like, can you just don't do no visualization, nothing? Create another report and see if you can bring the data in Power BI. And does that take time? I'm like, DAX Myers, do you have a visualization? And I have a DAX and some visualization. He removed the visualization. Everything started working super fast. So some DAX was written or the model was not done in a way that everything was flowing down. There's a lot of performance challenge and all the stuff comes. And DAX is I think what Microsoft can do to enhance that, quick measures, right? They came in a few years ago. It helped people to learn some of the basic things like year-over-year comparison, all the stuff. If that become more easier or visit-based in something like where user can actually know to write, but it drives them to do certain things, will surely help. Like more in quick measures will help people to get off the ground without the internals of the DAX and all the stuff, which they can learn as they go through this journey.
Terrific. Hey, Thomas, we haven't heard from you, so I would love to hear kind of your take on this. What do you think about the complexity as people step into the world of Power BI?
Well, I definitely agree that DAX is a challenge. The modeling is a challenge, but you can get started and without too much complexity. And when you get to DAX, the count and average and those kinds of measures aren't too difficult. But then when you get started, you can do those simple ones, but then I know I did the measure, quick measures when they first came out, and they were useful for a couple times, but then it didn't seem to grow anymore after that, and it became less useful. So I agree that there is room for improvement around the quick measures. There's one other thing I wanted to mention relating to our previous discussion, and that is the organization I used to work for. We had an E3 SKU, and so a few of us started learning Power BI. But one of the biggest challenges I had, besides reluctance to accept Power BI and to stick with Excel, is putting the data on the service. The complexity around using and sharing data was magnified for me because I wasn't allowed to put data on the service to make it easier to share with people. So I was kind of doing a hybrid of the thing with Excel files, where I would share this Excel file on a location, and then people would come there and get the data they wanted off of the PBX file. So if there's something that Microsoft could do to help reassure people that their data is safe on the service, that probably would be helpful.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, of course, Microsoft has this whole kind of cloud first, and I love it. I mean, I love how simple it is, and of course, people are moving towards this model of software as a service and so forth. But it's not everybody. In fact, sometimes I feel like I live in like a Power BI bubble. Like the people I interact with, they're all like, "Yep, just publish to Power BI, good." But you step out of that bubble, and there are still companies who are almost in the dark ages, and the cloud is such a long shot for them. Now, of course, Microsoft does have kind of on-prem solutions, but for one, the price point is usually higher and so forth. It just becomes a different discussion. So that's kind of a bigger challenge as well. So yeah, let's hear from a few other folks on this general topic. I mean, you can talk about some of the stuff we discussed, which was lack of support, or where do you get support from the community or from the company itself. We talked about licensing, complexity, or maybe something else that you see in the ecosystem, which is causing some drag towards adoption. So Charles, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just two quick points. Piggyback on the Excel thing. So I think you referenced this in your book too. There's SSAS, or the SQL people, and then there's millions of people using Excel here, and Power BI was the natural filler, right? Kind of the bridge in between. It was such a perfect middle spot. Yeah. So you saw people transition out of Excel, and then they could move up into SSAS or SQL Server or SQL. But then the flip side, Excel was so easy. You've seen this. People drop back out of Power BI into Excel because it's their fallback, right? So even though it's a good middle ground, you see some people backing out sometimes. The other point I want to bring up is I think Ken, I don't know if he's on yet, but he and Diego discovered something. And I was looking at Grace's data. She collected data on people that did searches for her website. Which countries were using Power BI or were searching for training. And I think US, China, India were right up top. And then there was Singapore, UK, Australia, Canada. And I reviewed this with the dean at Purdue University, and he pointed out, he's like, wow, English-speaking countries right up top. And I know Kenneth and Diego both saw the weakness, the soft spot in Mexico and Spanish-speaking countries. And then, if you look at that distribution of countries, non-English speaking is still, I think, an untapped market and potential for future Power BI expansion into those countries. So that's a trend that I've noticed.
Oh, that's brilliant, folks. So folks, I mean, I hope you're hearing this, right? Because what Charles is saying, that is a challenge, kind of in quotes, but that's also a tremendous opportunity. And again, we also talked about that, or how the Microsoft ecosystem works, where, well, they don't do everything themselves. They have their big focus and so forth, and the way they work is through really people like us, who are on this call, and I'm glad I'm hanging out with you guys, right? So the Microsoft partners, Microsoft MVPs, it's on us, and man, I love the idea of stepping up to the challenge of it's on us to kind of fill those gaps. So there is a gap between, we know, if you look at non-English, kind of those countries and that speaking population. And Diego, who's not on the call today, I think you've met him. He has this huge mission of fixing this injustice or disparity, right? I mean, there's a large chunk of world population who speaks Spanish, but there's not that much kind of resources in that language. Tristan, how are things in France with that? I mean...
Yes, so I agree with Charles. We have the same challenge here in France, especially because as you may know, French people are not that good in English, so it makes
Well,
it
we're
even
not good
more.
in French, that good in French either. So it's yeah. You're probably better at English than we are at French.
Okay, but yeah, it's a real challenge, especially because there are some features in Power BI which only work in English. For example, the Q&A.
Oh
Uh,
boy. Yeah.
so the Q&A also works more or less in Spanish, but it doesn't work in
Don't
French.
care there.
Yeah.
And I know that it's a real challenge for some people here in France. And also, when you want to learn, it's true that there are much more resources in English compared to French. I have one funny thing to tell you about this. You know the famous guy Marco Russo, okay,
Yeah. I've heard of
the
him.
best Power BI or DAX trainer in the world, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
He actually had to cancel his trainings in France. Why? Because he didn't get enough people registered. And why? Because the training was in English. So
Yeah.
even Marco Russo, who is like a
Oh, I
real
know.
authority,
Yeah.
had to cancel his trainings in France. So it shows how difficult it can be for non-English people, non-English
Yeah.
speaking people
I know. Oh man, that's
to
brilliant.
learn. Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant, folks. So that's where. So Mark, I want to hear from you as well. So Mark is based out of Holland, from your area or kind of generally in Europe. But folks, um, that's the thing, right? So, I read this line where, so sometimes when I'm teaching Power BI, I feel like, what am I doing, right? I mean, people have already blogged about this. Like, who am I to be doing this? And my coach said this line. Let's see if I can recall it. He said, Avi, there are no new messages. There are only new messengers. And I'm like, boom, right? So yeah, because the way I explain calculate has been explained a gazillion times now, right? I mean, well, yeah, there are plenty of smart Microsoft MVPs out there, but the way I explain it, I would connect with some people, and I want to reach them. And yeah, so Marco Russo and Alberto Ferrari are all awesome, and we love them, and they have made a tremendous impact. But you know what, guys? It's gonna take the Diego Lopez's of today. It's gonna take the Tristan Malherbe's of today. It's gonna take the Mark Lelyvelds of today to make a freaking big impact and take Power BI to the next level, and not just be concentrated in the English speaking countries. It's gonna take us, and man, I mean, God is a witness. These people are here, and they're gonna step up. So Mark, you can see I get excited about this stuff. But yeah, kind of what's your take on this whole kind of English, non-English kind of thing with Power BI?
I think I'm actually quite lucky in the Netherlands because English is pretty well spoken in the Netherlands, and the main clients I work for are also the bigger ones where a lot of international people are working. So the main language we're talking is English.
Yeah.
Although we have a lot of new consultants in our company who doesn't speak Dutch, and it's some kind of a challenge to get them on an assignment, because just the interaction from one to another is most of the time still in Dutch. Although if I'm doing a training for the client, I always tell them, please first put your Power BI in English, because otherwise you will never find any content online.
Okay.
And actually, yes, I do a lot of things in Dutch during the day, but I decided to write my blogs in English because Power BI simply works best in English. Tristan already mentioned it, Q&A. Please don't go there, because Q&A will not work in any other language until you start training it with a new Q&A feature. But if you have a closer look at what it's actually doing, you're just adding synonyms to it. And of course, you can add synonyms in different languages, but yeah, it still works best in English. Yeah.
Terrific. All right, guys. So let's switch gears, and I want to kind of bring us to a close. And I want to hear just kind of personally, what are your goals for kind of 2020 and around Power BI? Like, where do you want to take this for yourself? And of course, each one of you are unique because you're making an impact around you. So what is the impact that you see? Maybe you have goals maybe on kind of skills you learn or something like that. So whatever is in your mind along the lines of Power BI, and let's go to some of the folks we haven't heard in a bit. You heard from a lot of cool folks. So Reed, why don't we start with you? So maybe, what are you looking for 2020? What are your plans with your company, with Power BI? Something you want to do, new goals, new targets?
Sure, yeah. So I'll, as much to my ability as I can, I'll try to keep it succinct. But the biggest things that I think I've been working on now that Power BI has become a lot more mature is creating ways to package my IP for essentially like more passive income for my business. I've already actually done this pretty well, like the template apps. For those not familiar with it, those are the things that where you can for content as a or a software as a service type packages like Google Analytics and Salesforce, you can kind of get these free apps that can plug and play into your data. And I've actually leveraged quite a few of those, including one for Google Analytics, where it's a great sales point entry where they come and see that, they get some like a free report, and then they either buy like the actual PBX file for me, or they do other things like that. So I've actually been trying to create a lot more model and report templates, and even going into this year with a few other partners, and trying to like I mentioned, like package my my IP into something that can be sold without me needing to do hours of development, because I'm one person and I can only work so many hours a week as far as that goes. So that's my big push this year. That now that the product is mature enough to allow that.
That's brilliant, mate. So, folks, what Reed talked about is kind of the holy grail of at least the world that I operate in, which is I call myself a solopreneur, which is this powerful idea. And the first time I saw it, I mean, it's kind of simple, but the first time I heard it, I'm like, what? Is the idea is to disconnect money with time. And of course, I had never lived in this world. It was this 9 to 5 job, and usually the harder you worked, and the more money you made. And even if you step into consulting, you're often living still in that world. You're billing by hour and all that stuff, right? But there is this other level which you can approach if you walk on this path, where you disconnect money and time. So that's what Reed is talking about, kind of passive income. His approach, the template apps and stuff, is just one of the ways. There are lots of different ways where you can do this and do this with your Power BI skills. So that's awesome to hear that from you, Reed. Let's see. Greg, what are your plans for 2020?
Well, I'm still pretty early in setting up my business and doing consulting. So my plans is obviously to see this take off. And I think to just really narrow down, and I'm excited to help companies out and just see kind of that light go on when they can really see their data come to life. So really, I'm just launching this year, so seeing it take off is my big goal.
Well, yeah, we heard from Charles how quickly this thing can move. Within a few months, he was looking for external help. But a little bit of a quick question there. So Charles, Greg, we've talked about this, where I always say that it's better to kind of niche down on your business. And Charles, you kind of started out and went out there and started evangelizing, preaching Power BI, and only now you've kind of started focusing more on working with marketing groups and so forth. Greg, I do know that your focus is kind of on project and ERP, but starting out, is it a challenge to kind of stay focused on that? I mean, tell me a bit about that. So, Greg, what do you see? I mean, you want to
stay? I would say a lot's coming at me that's not particularly in that field, but it's exciting and different, and really helping me hone my skills. Point of sale data, healthcare stuff, some manufacturing stuff, just a wide variety. So I really enjoy that, but I can see that I really want to stay niche down, like we've talked about. So.
Terrific. And folks, I mean, we often say in our group, like, clarity comes from action. So it's okay to kind of feel your way around a bit, and then just be open to kind of possibilities. And sometimes it is what we think it's going to be. Maybe Greg is going to kind of stay with his niche of ERP and project management. Certainly, hey, if you're out there, need help around any of these areas, the contact is in the description below. Or something else would come out. So that's good. So Greg, I'm sure 2020 is going to be a great year. So I'm trying to roughly do an order of folks we kind of didn't hear that much from. Thomas, what's your big goal for 2020?
My goal, since I'm really just getting started, is to build my presence, begin to get some response from people, some inquiries, and hopefully that leads to a good prospect, maybe even a job or two or something. But really, I just want to get started and focus on my presence and see where that takes me.
Perfect. Yep. It's always great to kind of focus on the actions we can control. Parv, what are you planning for 2020 for yourself, for your business?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I'm really focused this year. I've been in a Power BI now, I think long enough, 4 or 5 years since it came in inception. Went involved in community and all this stuff. I think my focus for this year is actually what I learned in last 4 or 5 years. Rather than questions coming from community or doing the business, uh, bring it up to the people and go more in speaking places, engagements. Like I was in a meetup yesterday in Vancouver. I want to go out and share my knowledge and what I'm learning, share with others, write more blog posts. I just 3 blog posts started last December. I mean, a few months ago, weeks ago, in fact. And I really want to now get to the place where what I'm learning, how I'm thinking to share with I see what their feedback is, how they are doing it, how they are solving those problems, and actually learn from them. They might say, this is not the right way, because if you're doing something, you think this, you solve the problem, you think this is the best way. But I think maybe when you reach out to 100 people, they might say, okay, I did it in a different way. And I am really looking forward at the end of the year that I have a tons of blogs, posts, or some seminars or speaking engagements where I get involved in and share my knowledge and learn from there. That's pretty much what I'm looking from my personal growth point of view or my company's point of view. But from the technical standpoint, I'm looking for my, if we have the opportunity to move from dev to QA to production, some pipeline kind of thing, because that's the biggest challenge I see. But there is no Power BI is an enterprise tool now, and not having that kind of functionality just make things a little bit more complex and tough to make big business understand why these features are not there. I'm looking from that as an biggest on the product side of things to come in the market. So that's what I'm thinking.
Pretty cool. So folks, what I would call out is that, hey, look, we're all on this journey, right? And either you can be that, oh gosh, this is so hard, this is so frustrating, or you can enjoy the journey. And it's probably going to be the same outcome anyway, but trust me, I mean, one path is better than other. And I believe that if you kind of enjoy the journey, you kind of get there faster as well. And again, even if that's not true, at least you get to enjoy the journey. So whichever journey you're on, either it's about learning Power BI or about setting up your own consulting business and so forth, you gotta love the journey. And sometimes when times get really tough, think about the superhero. So of course, Luke Skywalker. I'm a sci-fi nerd. So, and he went through some tough times, right? Would you say so? All the Star Wars fans. But if you look at the whole narrative, those tough times were part of his story. So if you're kind of struggling right now, I just say to myself that, oh, that's part of my story. That's what I'm going to tell my grandkids, or I don't know if they're not into Power BI, then at least somebody I'm talking to, right? All right, so let's go to Tristan. Tristan, plans for 2020?
Yes, so on the community side, I'm running the Power BI user group here in France, so I hope it's going to keep growing a lot. We had a lot of new comers over the last month, so I hope it's going to keep going that way. We organize monthly meetups in Paris. We also have 2 big events coming in June and probably December this year, so I guess it's going to be pretty cool as well. And on the business side, I have launched my own company a few months ago. It's working pretty well, so I hope it's going to keep going as well. As you said, I would like to switch from traditional consulting to selling solutions and template apps so that I can protect my IP and reuse what I've already done before. That's Brilliant. Where I want to go.
Brilliant. Love that. Mark, let's hear from you.
Actually, last year I spent a lot of time on public speaking and stuff, but to be honest, didn't do that much blogging, at least not as much as I wanted to do. So I hope this year I can focus a little more on the blogging and that side of things. That doesn't mean that I stop public speaking, of course not, because I really like to do it, but it's also really time consuming. So
yeah, it's just pretty cool. What's your favorite part about going to these events?
I really like to see and get to know how other people look at the product, and also what was already mentioned, what challenges are they facing, and most of the times challenges from other people are the reasons why I write a blog, because I can never prevent myself from not finding out how to fix it, and maybe come up with a solution somewhere midnight and texting these people, yeah, I found a solution for your challenge.
Love that.
So
Yeah. So, folks, you probably heard that from every one of them, and even if they didn't mention, believe me, it's there. So, I think we've all discovered this idea, this feeling of helping others, and how awesome it feels. Now, I do believe that, uh, um, yeah, so yeah, that's certainly kind of a common thread which unites the folks on this call. So I'm trying to do a checklist here. I don't want to leave anybody out. So I think if I got things right, we have Charles. So Charles, so of course, folks, you have heard from Charles a few times on the channel. He has inspired so many out there, and in a big way because he's upfront, he's vulnerable. I mean, I remember the talk Power BI where he talked about how his hand would shake when he was kind of speaking at public forums about Power BI, and he would just let the audience know that, hey guys, my hand is going to shake, doesn't mean anything, ignore that, let's talk about Power BI. And he would go. So Charles, mate, I mean, I know 2019 has been an incredible year for you. What are your goals, plans, thoughts for 2020?
Yeah, so I have another story of another fear that that's going to come up. So right now I'm switching into marketing. It's kind of a new area for me, and I got to develop the templates and the knowledge and move into that area. So my goal, beginning of the year is to do that. Some of you have seen my LinkedIn videos. Boy, putting that first one up, that's that first domino. That's that feeling of I'm going to put myself out there. What are people going to say, right? And people loved it, and I was like, wow, why was I so scared? And so second goal is to just maintain those videos and keep those going. And those I do Power BI plus. A lot of people want to start their own businesses, so I put LinkedIn videos out there for people on tips on how to start a business. But here's where the fear comes up. I'm half Thai. I speak Thai, and Thailand is one of those underserved Microsoft Power BI markets. So I want to follow Diego's lead and Ken's lead and, develop videos in Thai and blog posts, content for Power BI in Thailand. It's been years since I've, speaking Thai on video. I'm a little rusty. So, I'm already making excuses right now. I don't know if I could do this. What if I can't think of the word? What if I wait, stall? All kinds of things are coming up right now. But I depend on the connections in this group so much. So, watch for this. I'm going to gather the courage. That's my goal next year, is to make those videos in Thai and help Thailand out. So with Power BI introductions.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you, folks, for a special guest for staying over a bit. We went over the mark, but hey, that was because it was a super exciting discussion. And I have a feeling I could probably sit down with either one of you and so we could talk for hours. And with some of you, I have. So, hey, this was an incredible opportunity, and I wanted to thank you all. And so for the folks who are watching, let us know and let these special guests know if what they shared, they took out their time, from being the awesome, folks that they are, to be here and talk with us. Let us know if that helped. Let us know what you thought about this whole session. We would love to hear from that. So again, thank you for a special guest. So we're going to wind it up, and I'm going to just say a little bit about the, actually, first of all, so again, in the description of this video, you can find links to connect to each one of our speakers. So if you're looking for guidance, certainly if you're looking to hire somebody to help you with the future of Power BI, get there, get your company, get there, then you can reach out to them at these links here, and they'll be good folks to connect to anyway. As you saw on this call, I mean, they're a pretty cool bunch of people passionate about Power BI. So that's that. And I'll also mention, if you go to learnpowerbi.com, so Charles talked about fear, and in my mission, so actually I didn't realize it's gonna work this way, but my mission in 2020 is to really enable others. And so I started this journey myself in 2019, where I had, so again, Charles talks about fear, so I was like, I had this idea that, hey, what if I helped others become Power BI consultants? But I had a whole bunch of fears, starting with who the F am I to be doing this, right? I mean, there are a lot of folks out there. And of course, this is a recurring theme. I remember when I was starting to teach Power BI, I had the same question to myself. I'm like, who am I to be teaching this? There are lots of experts out there, books have been written and so forth. Who am I to be doing this? And, the good thing is I did have an entrepreneurs group around me and a coaching group around me, and they kind of pushed me. And I did it, and I did it again. And we're opening enrollment for our Pro Plus program again, January. It's actually happening pretty soon, January 14th, Tuesday. So that's when we open doors, and we're doing that with a webinar where I get to share with you more on this, more about this path, what that looks like. But overall, what I'm going to say to you is that always going to be kind of fears and doubts. And when I left Microsoft, I often, before taking a big decision or some step, some change in your life, we're looking for that fear to go away, right? And we would say, well, when that fear goes away, then I'm going to do it. And I don't think life works that way, right? Your fear, your doubts are always going to be there. So the folks you saw on this call, they're pretty amazing individuals, and they are where they are right now, not because of their fears, but they took action in spite of it. So whatever it is that your goal is for 2020, you gotta cast your fear and doubt aside. They're always going to be there, but you still need to take action to move towards your goals. So let's end on there. And again, another shout out to connecting with these folks, and links are in the description. And we'll see you guys next time. Until then, power on.